So anyhow, I got...
You got the job.
Because I had been officer in charge for a while uptown.
Okay.
Why, they called over and they said, "If you got anybody, we need somebody bad over here. If you got anybody that can take over." And he said, "Well, yeah, I need her," but he said, "I could let you have her for a couple of weeks." And so I went over there and I worked out for them. And they said, "You get you somebody else." And then I got,
you got the job.
And I had the job. And I drove from Morrisonville to Wanaco every day.
How long of a drive is that? How many miles is that?
About 25,
okay.
30, and not over 30, 25. And then, and it was through the country, it wasn't hard road. But anyhow, Rick was going to special education. I took Rick to Taylorville to meet the bus, because he
went went to Wanaco.
Huh?
And then you went to Wanaco. You did.
And then I went to Wanaco. He met the bus at 7. I had to be at the post office at 7:30. I came home at 5:30, and the bus came into Springfield, at Taylorville, at 6 o'clock, and then I took him home.
Oh.
We did that.
And how many years did you do that?
We did that for 2 or 3 years.
Oh boy.
And so then I went, I got the job at the post office, so then I worked there. And I worked there, and then I helped in you had an hour and a half for noon. It was a little town, nothing to do. So I thought, well, they asked me to help them at the restaurant. They had a really good restaurant for those days. And I worked at that restaurant my noon hour, and then I went back to the post office. And then went back and picked Rick up, and we got home about 6:30 or 7 o'clock at night.
Oh my gosh. Long, hard days, right?
Well, I don't know.
That's what you did, what you had to do, right?
You liked it. That's right. You liked it. It was, and you were making money, which to me
that was important. You needed that. So tell me about your brothers and sisters. Tell me about the birth order. You're the oldest, and then who was next?
Lewis was the next.
And how many years younger than you was Lewis?
About 2 years.
2 years.
I was born in March, and he was born in a year and a half in September.
And then.
Yes, in September.
And he got drafted into the war.
Yes, he just got out of college. He paid his way through college.
He went to college.
Got a scholarship, a teacher's scholarship.
Okay.
And he worked his way through school.
What college did he go to? Do you know? Do you remember? What college did he go to? Do you remember?
Normal.
Normal, okay.
That's where he got. He was a teacher, you know.
He is still in his
supposed to. So anyhow, he worked his way, and he just got a job in Springfield after he graduated, and was working. And he got called in for the draft.
Draft, yeah.
And so he ran. He said, and I know somebody said to me, "Yeah, I'll bet he ran up the stairs." He said, "I rushed to get there on time," and he said, when I got there, they said my blood pressure was elevated. And so I know this guy said, "Yeah, I bet you." And so, but anyhow, later on, his son was drafted. Well, he got him married, and he farmed. So you're married and you farm, that's all you need to keep out of the draft.
Okay.
So, anyhow, then...
so how did your brother end up in the war?
Well, he never did get to come home.
Right.
He came home on a leave when he was just after he finished, right about Christmas time. But he didn't tell us he was going to have to go overseas, and he never came back again.
Right.
And he never did get home. He was in 5 years, and they began to say, "We're probably going to let you go home for a little bit." But he didn't ever make it.
And he was killed in the Philippines, right? He was killed in the Philippines,
yeah.
1945. All right, tell me about who was next. Leo, then who was next? Irene?
Yes, Irene.
So tell me about Irene. Was she a troublemaker?
Huh?
Was she a troublemaker?
No, she was the manager.
Oh, she was the manager. Okay.
She said.
Other than that husband of hers.
I worked, and I worked, and Mother worked, and Irene worked at the telephone office. Our cousin was in the telephone office, and so Irene got a job at the telephone office.
So wait a second. Didn't you used to have party lines down here? So Irene was always the lady you picked up the phone. She'd listen to all the conversations.
So anyhow, but on Saturday, whatever day you pay the bills, Irene collected our money, and she went uptown and paid the bills.
Okay.
She always liked to do that. I didn't want to do it. Mother didn't want to do it, but she was glad to have that job. I always had to laugh because that was Irene's
She
job.
liked that job.
She had to pay the bills.
That's good. I'm glad somebody likes to pay the bills. All right, so after Irene was...
Irene was about 3 years older than me. Younger than me.
Yeah. So you had you, Lewis, Irene, and then who was next?
And then
Edward?
Edward. No.
Was it Dorothy or Edward?
Let's see. Edward first.
Edward first.
Yes.
All right. So tell me about that little rascal. What was he like?
Well,
What was your younger brother like?
He wasn't. I mean, I had kids of my own, and I wasn't there so much, you know.
Was there that big of a spread between you and Edward?
Huh?
How many years between you and Ed?
Well, let's see. There was me and
2 more years, Louis, and then 3 more years. That's
about
5.
every 2 years.
All right.
So that's he was about 4 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Would that make it right?
Right.
And then Irene was about 2 years. No, Dorothy was 2 years younger than him. But in between there was a baby that died.
Right.
A girl that died.
Right.
And then Irene, and then.
Then 2 more years in Edward. And then after that, you had Dorothy. Then you had Jimmy.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So we're on Edward. Tell me about Edward. What was he like as a kid?
Well, he was real good in school. Lewis was really good in school too, and Irene and I were just normal. But they were pretty good in school.
You guys are the overachievers in the family. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So anyhow, but I don't know. He got along and everything, and he got along.
Now, how did he become an eye doctor? He was an eye doctor, right? Wasn't Eddie the eye doctor?
He went to. He of course worked all. He got a scholarship, but he worked all the time, you know, and so.
Now,
whatever he could get to do.
Did he have to serve in the war or not? Did Eddie serve in the war?
No, he never did have to go. I say before it got his time to come up, I think he probably, after he got out of college, I think he got married.
Okay.
But Uncle Leo his wife had an uncle that was an eye doctor. And Joe, that was my cousin, Uncle Leo's son, he was supposed to go to, this uncle was going to help Joe, you know, go through school for optometry. But Joe didn't like it. And Edward I think they roomed kind of together in Chicago, or up around Chicago, and he decided, well, he believed he tried. So he tried it, and that's how he decided.
Really? Okay. Yeah. And then when did he leave Morrisonville? He went to Poplar Bluff?
After he graduated.
Okay.
And I think he married this Italian girl, and
Isabel.
But anyhow, she had to leave her folks. She never lived any place but up in Chicago, you know. And so he found out this place down here in Missouri looked like pretty good, you know. And she was kind of dubious about going. You know?
Yeah.
But anyhow, they went and they had 5 kids.
Yeah. All right. So tell me, and then after Edward was Dorothy.
Well, Dorothy,
the most prolific birther of the Kinney clan. She had, right?
Yeah.
Was after Edward was Dorothy, right?
Yes.
Okay.
After Edward was Dorothy. And then Dorothy, she just went to school, and when she got I think she also worked at the telephone office.
At the telephone office with Irene?
A little bit. But Irene, Dorothy didn't go to school, and Irene didn't either. Either one of them. They had a job, I guess. So they
right out of high school.
Yeah,
okay.
They stayed there. But Dorothy, I guess she got married right after that because she didn't work very long at the thing. So of course, from then on, she was busy.
Yeah, she was busy. She had 10 kids and a farmer, right?
Yeah.
And tell me about John Kreger. He was a township guy, right?
Probably. I don't. Well, he was a farmer. And his folks had a little money.
Okay.
But they had a good family too. They had several boys. Too.
Okay. All right.
And so he got. They went over to his. They lived on his home place, which was very nice. And she had things nice, and she had plenty of money. I mean, not plenty, but I mean, she wasn't. We had no money at home. I'm telling you, we didn't have. You know, you didn't have it, you didn't buy it. Well, you didn't buy it because you didn't have it. It never did work out just right. But anyhow, that's the way it was for us. So anyhow, but John he liked to go to town and have a beer or two. And
yeah, the best thing I can tell you about Uncle John is I used to call him Mr. Kreger because he scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
He did. He was an intimidating force.
But anyhow.
All right, so then the last one was Jimmy. Tell me about Jimmy.
Well, Jimmy.
I mean, I know he's obnoxious, but that's my dad, so tell me about him.
Well, and of course, my dad was dead by that time, too.
Right.
But anyhow, I don't remember.